All right, guys, welcome back to part 2's episode of Anthony Sowell, the Cleveland Strangler. Today, we're heading into Tone's house to check out the skeletons in his closet.
He started selling drugs to support himself and heavy drinking. Now, we're talking about right when he gets out of the Marines. And on July 22nd, 1989, he was actually put in prison for 15 years.
Wow.
Now, this is before all the murders. He actually rapes a pregnant woman. This woman was lured to his home after her car broke down on Euclid Avenue. He said he would give her a ride to his home so she can use the phone to call her husband. He took her to her house to use the telephone. She noticed the house was extremely tidy and clean. So, way before all the shit that we just saw. So, he basically did the same thing as what we talked about earlier with the first rape we talked about. Same type of thing. But after the rape, he kept apologizing, telling her he was sorry over and over again. He was really remorseful about it. This is a sign of a sexual sadist. So Ted Bundy was like this too. You would do something that horrible, but then you'd feel awful about it. It's because you don't have any control over it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's being a sexual sadist. You know right from wrong, but I mean, it's that urge is so strong, you just can't control it. That's why he does it, and that's why he was apologizing for it. Now, this is from the woman that was raped, that was pregnant.
He closed the bedroom window and told me to sit down. Then he came from behind me with a long knife. He pulled a big suitcase into the middle of the room and said, "I don't think I need to tell you what's going to happen now." I was 3 months pregnant. He threw me on the bed, choked me, and raped me again and again.
Oh, no.
He was arrested, but he failed to show up for trial. He became a fugitive, and while he was a fugitive, he raped another woman on June 24th, 1990. He told her that, quote, she was his bitch, and she had better learn to like it, end quote.
Well.
The woman who was pregnant also was begging him to stop, and he ordered her to say, quote, "Yes, sir, I like it," end quote. From 1990 to 2005, he was incarcerated, but not for rape. They actually settled for attempted rape. This goes into how the court system completely dropped the ball, how the justice system completely failed all the victims in this story. Stuff like this. Before he's even killing anyone, he's not charged with rape. He's charged with attempted rape. He raped her repeatedly for hours. Okay? But...
That's interesting.
Exactly. But he took a plea deal or whatever, and even in prison, even though he was a squared-away inmate, one of the best, he never admitted to actually doing the rape. Another thing that was really fucked up about this is because he went to prison for 15 years for rape. He's a sex offender.
Yeah.
But this was before the new sex offender rules were applied. So once he's living on Imperial Avenue, the new rules, because that's when the tiers, tier 3, like it was all redone and created. Since he was already on Imperial Avenue, he kind of fell through the cracks, and he didn't have to go door to door telling everyone he's a sex offender because he was already living there type of thing. But he was actually released as, quote, not likely to reoffend, end quote. So I mean, a lot of this case is the justice system failed a lot of people in this fucking case, you know. From 1990 to 2005, he was incarcerated. He was a model prisoner, the best of the best.
Same thing as the military.
Structure. He loved structure. Loved it. He was the type of guy that they would give keys to the back room to get supplies. He was in charge of all the cooking schedule, and he was in charge of feeding 1,300 inmates, and he would do his job diligently. He was a model inmate. He thrived in that atmosphere.
So what happens when he's not locked up or in the military?
He should have stayed in the Marine Corps. That's what he should have done. Because that's what he needs. He needs this. He needs structure. He can't live without it. Look at him. And when he doesn't have structure, his whole world goes to shit. Anyway, He gets out on June 20th, 2005. He moves into 12205 Imperial Avenue. He was 45 years old. He got a job working at the baseball stadium, cooking for Cleveland Indians and the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
But he meets a woman, and this is what happens. He meets a woman, and women, they always fuck you up.
I don't think that is entirely the woman's fault. Apparently, this man had some issues.
I'm saying, guys out there, you stay away from women.
Good luck with that advice.
Ain't nothing good about a woman.
Well, I mean,
They always fucking breed trouble.
Oh, okay.
I mean, gay men won't have that problem.
Also true.
This is Lori Frazier. This is the niece of the mayor of Cleveland. Go to talkmore.com to see her photo. She is also, or was, a crack addict. And Tone, when he got out and was working at the baseball stadium, he was doing good. He was living at Imperial Avenue in the dilapidated streets, but his house was tidy and clean, completely clean. Before he met her. She has a crack problem, a very bad crack problem.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's working at the stadium overtime, doing all this stuff, even started selling drugs, weed, and stuff like that to pay for her crack habit, which that's an insatiable habit to have. It only takes a little bit of time before she introduces him to crack, and then that is it. Once he's on crack, life is over. It was 2006 he started crack. Remember I said the convenience store owner?
Mm-hmm.
He was like a Pakistani guy. He said Tone would come in there, nicest guy, dressed nice. He even remembers when he came in there with his girlfriend, Lori Frazier, who you're looking at right there, introduced her. This is my girlfriend. You know, we're so happy. He was just a stand-up guy, even though he had all his problems. But he was, trying to get his shit together.
Yeah.
And then 2006, one smoke of the crack pipe, that's it.
So how did they meet?
They met at the corner store. She was obviously trying to score some crack. Now, it's fun. This story, they compare this story, and I haven't done this story before, but there was a serial murderer out there in Cleveland called the Cleveland Torso Murderer. He is a Jack the Ripper type, has never been caught. And it's funny because the time period of that was in the 30s, the 20s and 30s, which what was going on during that time?
Prohibition.
The Great Depression.
Oh, well, I mean,
So,
also Prohibition, but,
This guy lured these women in with what? What did they need? They needed food. Because no one had food in the Great Depression in the same area.
Oh, wow.
So he was luring in these guys with food. Now you're in the crack epidemic, or what was left of it. What is Tone luring these women in with? Crack. He's got the crack. If you go to Tone's house, he's got crack. He's always got crack. And if you want to smoke some crack, you probably have to have sex with him, but you got crack. And if you're a crackhead, then, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to be able to stop yourself. Does that make sense?
No, the addiction's too strong.
Yeah. And the reason I said he's kind of related to Ted Bundy, number one, he's a sexual sadist. And number two, you remember Ted Bundy had this girlfriend. I forgot her name.
But that Elizabeth?
Was the girlfriend that fucked him all up. She broke his heart. And then he started killing and raping people.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This was Lori Frazier to him, to Tone. That was his girlfriend that broke his heart. And even on death row, you'll see in a minute, he was talking about how his heart was broken and this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Frazier that dumped him. She wanted to get her life together. She's the mayor's niece and she can't do crack anymore. So she had to stop seeing him, stuff like that.
So she's the one that got him on crack, and then they did crack together, and then she's like, I don't want to do crack. And instead of saying, okay, let's not do crack together, she left him, and he continued to do crack and sell crack and kill people.
Yeah. That's basically what it is.
Sounds like a tale of star-crossed lovers to me. Modern day Romeo and Juliet.
All right. This is Ray's Sausage Factory, what you're looking at now. For years, neighbors and residents, for about 2 years, because he's been killing people for about 2 years. Since 2000, into 2006, 2007, he started killing these women.
So the crack, when he began smoking crack, is when the murderer came out in him.
Yeah. So in the Marines, he was choking all these Japanese prostitutes or whatever. Now it's playing out differently here. For about 2 years, neighbors and residents have been complaining of the putrid, blood, rotting stench that was emanating from the sausage factory. Or what they thought was a sausage factory, which is really Tone's house.
That's convenient.
Yeah. Easy to pin it on.
Yeah, so if a girl ever came over, which a lot of them didn't say anything because they just wanted to get crack, they're not going to be like, what's that horrible stench? I can't be here. They're there for one reason, to get high. But most of them noticed the fucking putrid, decomposing skin in the house. It was awful. In the summer, people would keep their windows closed. Now, they don't have air conditioners. Oh. It is a poor neighborhood. They would keep their windows closed and sweat rather than put up with the smell of what was coming out of there. The town came out numerous times. The U.S. Department of Agriculture came out there way more times than the police came out there.
To the sausage factory.
To investigate rapes. The U.S. Department of Agriculture came out there and finally said, you know what? Even though we can't pinpoint the smell, we're going to cite you, Ray Sausage Factory, a company that has been in business for 57 years and has never had a problem with this. They don't even slaughter their meat there. They get it shipped in frozen. We're going to cite you for, quote, adequately or inadequately controlling odors and vapors, end quote.
Wow. I hope Ray's sued his ass or someone's ass.
Ray and his wife, who took over the business from his papa, ended up replacing the entire plumbing system and all the pipes in their establishment, costing over $20,000.
I hope they got their money back.
And guess what? The smell was still there because guess what? It wasn't coming from Ray's. It was coming from 11 dead fucking rotting people in Tone's house.
Now, I wonder, obviously, if everyone can smell it, they can smell it. So they must have been just as confused about the smell.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this has never happened before. Where is this coming
from?
It's like,
it's a
mysterious ticking noise.
Some of it's kind of funny. The convenience store across the street, which we saw on Google Earth, was actually getting business from the smell. Do you know why? People were coming in there and buying all the air fresheners.
Oh, shit.
They sold so much air fresheners that they were on constant back order.
Like the toilet paper crisis of 2020.
They had to start selling oranges, like oranges in bulk so people can take the pills off and stick them in their nose. That's how bad
they say
this
that oranges
was.
are good for your food disposal.
That's how bad this smell was. It was awful. They couldn't even keep air fresheners in stock.
Wow.
Like, what the fuck?
Wow.
I found the source of the mysterious ticking noise. It's a python.
This is one of the photos inside Tone's home. This doesn't look like the Model Marine, the honor graduate's home.
No.
John Douglas, the Mindhunter FBI guy, says, quote, I can guarantee you every place he's lived, you're going to find cases of women just like these being raped and killed just like this. There's no way he only started killing a few years ago, end quote. Which I don't really agree with. I think the crack did this. I think the crack made him kill people.
And that's how he escalated. Interesting.
Because as you'll see, this guy wasn't exactly hiding or digging holes for these bodies. They were rotting in the next room.
Yeah, but at the same, he has a violent past. I mean, he went to jail for rape. He was choking out prostitutes. Like,
it escalated.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. This is Vanessa Gay. She is one of the survivors who testified in court. She was raped vaginally and orally. It took hours before he stopped raping her. Finally, she's starting to play it cool. Just like all the survivors, they play it cool. They don't give in to, because if you scream and you fear and you jump around and you're like, oh my God, then it excites him. So she's playing it cool. Hey, it's all good. Can I go use the bathroom? So she walks to the bathroom in the other room. She sees a plastic tarp hanging down from the ceiling.
A blue tarp?
No, a black tarp.
Green
and
tarp?
she lifts up the corner of it and
She begins crying, her head down. After a pause to gather herself, she resumes, telling the court that a corner of the plastic tarp was pulled up. Behind the plastic, I saw something on the floor. I didn't realize it was a body. It didn't have a head on it.
it's a body sitting on a chair without a head.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Now, 11 bodies were found.
What did he do with the head? I don't understand. What's he doing with the body parts?
Well, a lot of the body parts, they think he just threw in Ray's dumpster.
Oh, God.
Ray
Like,
actually,
did he like dismember them, or did they just rot so much that they dismembered themselves?
I think this was the first victim from what I believe, and I believe he tried to dismember it because I don't think he did anything sexual after death. They think he probably had sex with the corpse, but
Okay.
it wasn't like some of the people that we've talked about that would, Dennis Nielsen or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I believe he cut the head off because he was trying to dismember it. And if you kill someone and you got to cut the body up, where are you going to start? Probably the head, right? So I think he started from that position, but then he's smoking crack.
It's
So
almost
he's
as
like,
if
fuck it, I'm tired. I'm just gonna go lay down, and just leaves the body there for fucking years.
It's almost as if he was. Oh, I mean, that's an interesting perspective. My perspective was he was high when he killed her, and then was like, "Oh shit, I killed her," and he was like, "Well, I gotta get rid of this body somehow," and then started to dismember, and then was like, "No."
11,
It was coming down.
11 bodies were found in the home in total. Now, the SWAT team, they busted in the door after they were called because usually if the police say, all right, she has been raped, the rape test checks out and everything else. And one of the things about the rape kit from, like, how would you know if someone was choked if they come into a hospital and say they've been raped and choked, strangled?
Well, you would look for
Bruising?
strangulation marks. Yeah.
Well, since the body's still alive, they're probably not going to be as prominent. But the nurses, from what I learned in this book, if they have a really raspy voice, then that means they were choked, and they can automatically tell when they were strangled.
I mean, otherwise you would look for maybe vaginal trauma.
Also, what I learned in this book is most killers who strangle, if you strangle someone, a victim, even if you're not a killer, like a rapist, or not even a rapist, just whoever is strangling whoever woman, will most likely lead to sexual assault after that, because the choking is such an intimate act that it almost always leads to the woman getting raped. Almost always. I didn't know that. I kind of knew that, but it's like a 99% chance that it's going to lead to rape. Kind of interesting. The SWAT team busts in the house trying to get evidence for the rape. They had no idea there were bodies in the house. They bust down the door of the second floor. They say, "Police, don't move." And they realized, because they said that because there was two people laying on the floor. They had no idea these were corpses just laying on the floor. Like, for 2 years, he just puts a dead body just in whatever room. He's got 3 floors and a lot of rooms in the house. The spare bedroom had 2 dead bodies just laying there, not even covered up or anything, just laying and rotting. And then he would shut the door.
Nothing to
So
see here.
they bust in thinking they were just someone sleeping or whatever.
Oh, my God.
And then they realized they were dead bodies. And immediately what they think, which I didn't know, again, is, I guess this happens a lot in these inner cities. If your gram dies or your paw dies, you just leave them in the house and let them decompose.
What?
So you can keep collecting their Social Security check.
Oh,
That's
damn.
what they thought was going on, which apparently
Holy
happens a lot. So they thought that was just going on. Okay, little did they know.
I mean, I've heard of not reporting a death because of Social Security money, but I haven't heard of just leaving the body there.
Same.
But there were 11 bodies found. Another thing, the SWAT team. Another thing the SWAT team noticed is when they they had these big SWAT boots on. They were kicking in doors. They would notice these crunching sounds all through the house. Just crunching, just crunch in their boots. What do you think that was?
Bones?
No, they didn't figure out until after they got out of the house and they took their boots off and like, what the fuck was that crunching sound? In the crevices of the boots filled up with maggots.
Oh.
There were maggots crawling through the entire house. The SWAT team found the first 2 bodies rotting in the spare bedroom. The wrist and feet were bound. Now, this is with all the victims. Their wrist and feet were bound together with whatever. A lot of them were phone chargers. In fact, the convenience store across the street not only was Tone buying industrial-sized garbage bags, which he wasn't even using, in bulk, he was also buying phone chargers, which those things are fucking expensive. So he was wrapping up women's hands with phone chargers, their wrists and ankles with phone chargers.
You would have been better off buying like phone cords from Radio Shack.
Yeah. Out of the 11 that were found in the home, none of them were instantly recognizable as far as gender or race. That's how badly decomposed they were.
That's bad.
They were so decomposed, you can't even tell if they were black or white or woman or female or woman or man. They were all black women, but none of them were they could instantly identify. In fact, this case, this is going to show you the stagnation people have for the police, the kind of the insecurity they have with the police force. It took nearly 6 months to identify all the victims but the only way to identify them, because you can't even, they don't have faces, is you got to submit some familial DNA, which means a relative has to come in.
But they couldn't identify any of them.
No one here trusts the fucking police. So you're going to have a dragnet and say, all right, if you help us identify all these victims, everyone come in and submit your DNA. Everyone's like, fuck you. What are you going to do with my DNA? Link me to other shit?
Yeah.
Like
23andMe.
No one would fucking want to come in. It took forever to identify these women because of that. And that's to show you the kind of dissonance that the police had with the community.
Yeah.
And still do. I mean, it's worse now. It gets worse every year. It's not getting better. There's
Nope.
Amazon's not posting up there and making jobs, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying. This is interesting. How would you identify the time of death when you can't even identify the race or gender of someone?
The state of decomposition?
Yeah, but how do you get to identify that within like days?
No, you can't. I don't think you can.
You can. There's one method they use, and that's called the blowfly.
Blowflies can colonize a body quickly after death, depositing hundreds of eggs in nostrils, eyes, ears, mouths, and other orifices. Within a day, the eggs hatch into larvae or maggots that feast on rotting flesh. Blowfly maggots can be useful evidence. They grow at predictable rates. Generally speaking, the larger the maggot, the older it is.
Wasn't there an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine that the guy was talking about his blowfly?
This is really interesting. The more the maggots eat is like the more they're decomposed. So the bigger they get is the longer they've been aging. And since they grow at predictable rates, they can actually, it's like carbon dating. It's reliable. They can actually tell how long a body's been decomposing by how fat these fucking flies get. Fucking incredible. There's a guy from they were talking about on his book. His entire job is to go and use these blowflies to see how fat they get and tell the time of death. That's his entire job. Think about that. How would you even know that's a job?
I mean, you demand your pay rate at that point.
Yeah. This is the back of his home there. I'm just showing you some pictures. I'll put these on
Interesting. There's a
talkmurder.com.
dumpster there from Ray's sausage, and he didn't make use of that.
Yeah, so there's more I wanted to go over, but honestly, that's the Cleveland Strangler.
Well, what happened to him?
I believe it was 88 counts of stuff from rape to murder, first degree murder, all this stuff, and he was put on death row for lethal injection. However, he had contracted an unspecified illness on January 21st, 2021, COVID-19. He was transferred to an end-of-life care facility in Columbus and stayed there for 16 days. And at 3:27 p.m. on February 8th, he died.
Wow.
That's interesting that they named it as unspecified.
Prison authorities denied that his death was related to COVID-19.
Huh.
You know that shit was fucking related.
Well, I think you would
think they would call it.
yeah,
Because he was, how old was he? 60? All right, so that is Cleveland Strangler, Anthony Sowell. He reminds me of there's a guy, his name's Thomas Sowell. He's an economist. He's got a bunch of good books. I don't expect y'all to have read them.
Apparently not.
Anyway, any questions about this? I skipped a lot. I skipped a lot of slides in this because it was getting too long. But basically, to break it down, he was abused as a child. Oh, in fact, I forgot to mention one thing. He actually, we do think he was sexually abused as a child.
Oh, no.
Because when he was 3 or 4, do you know what a chatty Cathy doll is?
Yes, it's a doll that talks to you, and it's also Chatty Cathy is a nickname for someone who talks to everyone.
Okay, so it was a doll back in the day. I don't think they make them anymore. But when he was 3 or 4, he has a vivid memory of him smearing feces on the doll, which psychiatrists claim that was related to sexual assault. So he may have been sexually assaulted. I can tell you for certainty, every one of the kids in that house either ended up in a mental institution and or suffered from alcohol or heavy drug use. Every single one of them. And of course, Anthony being the serial killer, one of the worst in history, is in Cleveland history. Yeah, he was a sexual sadist. He would lure women in, and the women we talked about tonight, there are 11, they're called the 11 Angels. I'll put all their photos on talkmurder.com. But the 11 that we know of that were killed, probably a lot more, but he never admitted to them. And they were lured in with crack. Most of them, almost 100%, were lured in with crack. And then the ones that we talked about that got away, the one that fell out of the window, that's kind of how it went if you go into his house.
So do we know when he would have been executed? It probably would have not have been for another couple of years.
Oh, fuck. Who knows? I mean, this
Death row is so backed up.
It takes a long time.
Dude, I really, because I do agree with the death penalty. That's personally even me. But honestly, the reason I don't is because that toolbox killer, he was on death row for 47 years. 47 years, and he dies on death row. I mean, how much is that in tax dollar money we're paying for that motherfucker? All his appeals, all this shit. He's got public defender, so we're paying for all his appeals, all this shit. We're paying millions of dollars so this dude can sit on fucking death row.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I agree with it, And it's interesting that you brought that up. The families, there were 8 out of the 11 family members of the victims that came forth and said, I don't want to do the death penalty. I don't want to put him on the death penalty. Let's just not even do a trial. Let's just not even do a trial. Let's just give him a plea and he'll just stay in prison for life and just call it even. Why do you think they did that? There's a certain reason they did that.
To avoid having
legal fees?
They signed a petition. No, they wouldn't pay any legal fees.
No, to not have to put themselves through so many trials.
Yeah, well, yes and no. It would all have been one trial, but yes and no because they didn't want, and it's a very specific reason. The reason 8 out of 11 signed the petition is because they didn't want to go to court and not only sit through all the stuff that happened to their daughter or whatever,
right,
but for the prosecutor, which had happened for the survivors, say, oh, when did you start doing crack? Oh, you have 7 kids, and it seems here you left them for 3 weeks and you didn't come back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They didn't want that shit to happen
I don't
because
blame
that's
them.
what they'll remember about their daughter leaving their kids out while they're on the crack bench. They didn't want that to happen, and I respect that.
Yeah, I do too.
And I'll
for
put
sure.
I'll put all the victim names and stuff on talkmurder.com. It's a sad story. 100% of them were at some point doing crack cocaine, but honestly, in the neighborhood they lived in, fuck man, you don't have a job, you don't have a support, like motherfuck, like yeah, it's just it's every fucking where. It'd be hard not to. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, no, another thing I wanted to say, but we didn't have time to go over this victim specifically. Her name was Latundra Billups, and she is outspoken today as one of the victims. She was brutally raped for hours on hours. She actually was dragged across the floor, had jagged splinters in her fingers and legs. The weird thing about this is that she was one of the many victims who, after the hours of rape, Tone would fall asleep. Being on Tone, puts his heart on his shoulder. She'd wake up, or not wake up, come to from being unconscious, and old Tone would have his arm around her like she was his girlfriend. Kind of crazy shit.
Yeah.
And that kind of shows you the MO. You know, he is just the same reason Lori Frazier, when she breaks up with him now, he's going to kill everybody type of thing. 0.13. I'm in the pocket.
Where does the pocket end?
I'm in the pocket. I am in the pocket.
Know.
I'm in the pocket, boys.
Just so he can say that. That's the only reason he wants to be in that pocket.
All right. Well, that is the Cleveland Strangler. Thank you guys for staying with us. That was long. If you want to support us, please go to talkmurder.com/join. Become a Taco Supremo or a Nacho Taco or whatever it's called. To Small Taco. Support us. We have episodes on there. I'm doing 1 to 2, most likely 2, because I love true crime. Episodes a week, episodes a month exclusively for you guys on Patreon. And you can support us there. We're also going to start doing live episodes where we take questions while we record. And that's going to be next month. I promise you, I'm going to get that stuff together. So support us there. My name is John. I hope you guys enjoy this. Go to talkmurder.com. Share the post, please. I'm here with Jen and Nicole. Until next time, good night, you lovely, lovely people.